Hey, welcome. I am Ollie Matthews here, functional medicine practitioner, health coach, nutritionist, and I work with people so much within my clinic on hormones. And one of the big things that gets me so frustrated when it comes to hormone health is that people think it has to be intricate, it has to be complicated, it has to be all these different things where you have no result or nothing to resort to until you get to hormone therapy. Now, what happens with hormones is that during perimenopause years and when we look at andropause years for males, that there are lower levels of your sex hormones that are produced from your ovaries and testicles. And that is a problem because you want to have good energy. We're living in a world where people are living longer. But if we're spending half of our life with low hormones, even maybe more than that, when we look at lifestyle habits, it can be a massive issue when you want to have longevity and you want to feel good. Because what's the point in just living a long while when you don't have no quality of life? And the more stressed you are, the more stress we get exposed to within our life, the harder it is to keep good hormonal balance. Now, I say hormonal balance, there's no such thing as a balance of hormones because you don't have exactly the same testosterone as estrogen, as cortisol, and all these different hormones. It's about having the right levels. When we talk about hormone balance, having the right levels of testosterone for where you're at, of estrogen for where you're at, of progesterone for where you're at, and so forth. Now, when you are stressed, it becomes a problem because in both men and women, 10 to 30% of sex hormones are synthesized by the adrenals, more in women and less in men. And that usually is the reason why the harder you push, the harder you work, the more intense you do your exercise, the more extreme you diet, the less results happen because your hormones are just not where they need to be. The harder the work, the less results. Now, you're going to see symptoms of adrenal dysfunction, shall we say, or adrenal insufficiency throughout your menstruating years. So your menstrual cycle show that your adrenals are under stress. So when you have menorrhagia, so heavy bleeding, longer menstruation periods, excessive bleeding during a normal length, these sorts of things, when you suffer with premenstrual syndrome, when you suffer with menorrhagia, so there's bleeding at irregular intervals and particularly between your menstrual cycles, things like oligomenorrhea, which means that you're not getting or you get infrequent menstrual cycles, hypermenorrhea with reduced bleeding on your cycle on your period, amenorrhea, which is the absence of menstrual periods, and that's a big one I see with a lot of more endurance athletes. And we see women that are underweight not having periods because they just haven't got the ability to create the hormones that they need to have the periods. And a big one that I've worked with a lot of people on is dysmenorrhea. And that is serious, abnormal abdominal cramps, bleeding, cramping around your sexual organs during your menstrual periods. Then we also look at things which we see even more frequently that show that your adrenals are actually under stress. And that is something called dysglycemia, blood glucose issues, hypoglycemia, and things like insulin resistance. So when I look at these two symptoms, one of the most important questions that I ever ask clients is, does food change how you feel? If food makes you energized, that's linking more with hypoglycemia. If you feel tired after eating, that's linked more with insulin resistance. And we need to sort these because it's a sign that your body is under undue stress and your adrenals are going to end up being insufficient of the nutrients they need to create the sex hormones as your sex organs stop producing these. And we need to look at what is actually stressing. There's so much things that stress us, with whether it's environmental stresses, whether it's physical stresses, whether it's psychological stress. There are so many stresses that we need to deal with day to day in life. Your environment, is it toxins that are coming from the environment, toxins in the air, mold, poor air quality? Is it the BPAs? Now, with plastics, don't just go BPA 3. You need to have metal water bottles. You need to be drinking out of cups, these sorts of things. You need to not be drinking out of plastic, even if they say BPA 3. Bisphenol A is an endocrine disruptor. It will disrupt your endocrine hormones. But there is also something called bisphenol S, bisphenol B, bisphenol AF. There are so many different bisphenols which have been shown to be more impactful on your endocrine function than bisphenol A. So when people say BPA-free, it's not saying that it's free of bisphenol, just that version A. So we need to look at those toxins that are getting exposed to us. Then we look at physical stress, the stress in our jobs, the poor sleep, all these different things. Then even exercise can be a big stressor. I see so many, again, endurance athletes, CrossFit athletes, people competing in bodybuilding, going to the extremes that their body isn't able to function the more stress they put on it. And then the psychological stress, financial stress, emotional stress that comes from relationships and all these things that are thrown at us left, right, and center every single day. They are all playing a role. And where we need to look as a big factor of helping our body be more resilient to stress is in our gut, in our microbiome. I'm sure you've heard about your gut microbiome. If you're following me, you've definitely heard about your gut microbiome. But the more diversity we can have in our microbiome, basically that means different fiber types, different bacteria, then the better our health is going to be. And that means that if you look at your vegetable intake, I have something that I do with clients called veggie mush, veggie ice cubes. And that is where I get them to go to the supermarket and get about 20 to 25 different vegetables, blitz them in a blender or in a food processor, raw, and then put them into ice cube trays. And then throughout the day, once or twice, they have about 2 tablespoons worth of those. So 1 to 2 ice cubes. And I usually say put it in a protein shake or something and blitz it again. That is basically repopulating your gut microbiome with so many different seeds that you wouldn't normally have. Now, I have people say to me, can I eat my veg? Yes, you still need to eat your veg. You still have to have good levels of fiber. And I have people say to me, can I have a greens drink? Can I have a probiotic? Well, honestly, that depends on the person. If people are blanket statement putting out greens drinks as healthy, then it's just not a good thing for people to be doing, because they can cause damage if you've not got good levels of gut, if you've got leaky gut or things like that, especially with the probiotic side of things. So we have to be a bit careful. So getting the real veg in there, putting it in there. And when I've got people, as I say, can I eat my veg? I eat a lot of veg. I get them to list their veg. And a good person is getting like 6, 7 different types of veg in each day. Not necessarily servings, but different types. And it's usually those same 6 or 7 vegetables, even with myself, as we go through the week, that we rotate in and out. So we need to look at your gut health and microbiome diversity. And there are certain factors that are going to help your microbiome diversity. So as we've said, a diverse list of vegetables, fruits, and fibers, diverse meals. If you're eating exactly the same thing every single day, it may be convenient, but convenience is usually the reason that we're not as healthy as we really should be. If you're not getting good sleep, if you're getting less than 7 hours sleep regularly, or you're not able to get to sleep, or you're waking up through the night, then you are not going to be setting yourself up to have a good, diverse microbiome, which is going to impact your health and your adrenal function further down the line. Then again, with that, normal and consistent circadian rhythms. So if you're getting up at different times, if you're waking up at different times and going to sleep at different times through the night, that is going to impact your circadian rhythm. Your body needs to know when it needs to boost cortisol to wake up, and it needs to know when it needs to boost melatonin in order to get you to sleep. If you're doing exercise, good, great. Do some exercise, do some resistance training. Weight training becomes more and more important as we age. We need to have good muscle mass in order to be healthy. It's a factor. You see so many old people or elderly people get into their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they can't get up out of the chair. If we can have good muscle mass as we age, you're going to set yourself up for more success. In fact, one of a big study has shown that one of the factors that can actually predict how old we're going to get is our leg strength. But you don't want to do too much. Outdoor activities, people doing too much stuff inside, not getting out in nature. I went for a run this morning with a friend, and it was amazing to be out in nature, to be on these trails and listen to the birds, feel the fresh air, until we got to the manure bit. And apparently it opens up your lungs, is what we were saying. An interaction with pets. People underestimate the power of having a dog. I'm a dog man. I suppose cats are okay too. But if you've got pets, they've got certain bacteria that expose us to bacteria as well. Our skin has its own microbiome. Our mouth has its own microbiome. Our eyes has their own microbiome. We have to be exposed to bacteria to be healthy in our immune function. Then we have factors that lower your microbiome diversity. So they're literally going to be the opposite of some of these things. So a limited diversity in your diet, if you're eating the same things, eating the same meals daily, living in very, very sterile environments. And this is one of the problems that I noticed a few years ago when we had the lockdowns and everything, is that everyone was so over the top on, shall we say, their hygiene. Their microbiome was suffering. So if you are very, very extreme with washing your hands, I'm not saying don't wash your hands or anything like that, or don't shower, don't wash. No, because I'm oversensitive and you'll probably stink, but make sure you're washing. But you don't need to scrub as much. We need to be exposed to this bacteria that gets onto our skin. Urbanization, living right in the city rather than being in the countryside, lack of sleep, disruption in circadian rhythm, the opposites, remember. Then we look at sedentary lifestyle, the opposite, lack of exercise, the opposite. A big one that we seem to be having issues with nowadays is antibiotic use and non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, things like ibuprofen. And the problem there is that it's a catch-22, is that if you're suffering with hormone issues and you suffer with something like dysmenorrhea and you're getting cramping, abnormal cramping, you're going to want to take anti-inflammatory drugs. But then it's going to impact your gut microbiome. And then getting onto the cycle again, there's going to be more stress. So it's really doing as much as you can to help yourself with everything else so you don't need to take those drugs. Pesticides and artificial sweeteners as well. They've been shown to really lower your microbiome diversity. Now, we know that there are some nutraceuticals that can help, nutraceutical supplements. And this isn't a blanket statement prescription. If you want to speak about this on a one-to-one basis, come and see me, drop me a message, go to the link, ojhealth.com/let's talk, and we can book in for a health strategy session for free and chat through this stuff. But nutraceuticals that are going to help your adrenal function are going to be things like rhodiola, holy basil, Papax ginseng, ashwagandha. These are things, adaptogenic herbs. They help your body adapt to the level of stress we're putting it through. Then we have B vitamins and vitamin C. These are things that are really going to help you. In the right person, when we look at microbiome diversity, if your gut, you don't have signs of leaky gut, which a lot of people, the longer they go on with these hormonal issues, especially with dysglycemia, there's going to be problems with gut lining, no doubt, because of the high levels of stress. If you don't have problems with that, so if you're not getting the fatigue, if you're not getting reflux and things, then yeah, we can look potentially at some certain probiotics. We need to then look at a different one for you specifically. Is it going to be that you have lower levels of a bacteria called Akkermansia, which has been very much linked with ADHD, neurodiversity, autism, like these things, where lower levels of that will promote issues in your gut, stop you from actually losing fat and lowering your energy levels. So how do we get good levels of that? Polyphenols, cruciferous vegetables. We look at blueberries, raspberries, these sorts of things. And you can look at supplementing with polyphenols, but until you get good gut health, you're not going to be able to utilize them. So gut health is the single biggest thing that is going to help your health and your hormonal status if you really want to improve this. Now, hopefully you've got something from this stream, this video, this talk. But if you do need help with this, I work with people all over the world to help themselves, help their hormones, help their body increase their energy, improve their gut health, and allow them to actually sleep through the night. Simply drop me a message and I'll pop a link over to you and we can get you booked in for your health strategy session straight away. Don't want to say that quickly too many times.